Okay, this is episode 405, Quite a Ride, written by Cherkis and directed by Michael Morris, and I'm Peter Gould, co-creator and executive producer.
I am Cherkis, and I wrote this episode.
Hi, I'm Skip Macdonald, and I am the editor of this episode.
And I'm Michael Morris, and I directed this episode.
And we are looking at gorgeous, silky, expensive 35 millimeter film shot with a motion picture camera. The only scene so far in Better Call Saul shot with film.
An incredible day on set, I will say that. It was a day that I, as a director, will never forget. I've never seen a level of excitement and anticipation as this.
Me too. I was so excited to see this come to life. I mean, as fun as it was to write it, this part, seeing Bob become Saul again, was thrilling.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for me to cut it going back to the Saul character, and felt like Bob fell right back into it.
Mm.
I know. I was wondering, would it take him some time to do it? And no, he just became Saul.
This is something I thought was brilliant, you guys, was hiding the lockbox inside the Constitution, so he had to literally destroy the Constitution.
I know, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
And of course, seeing Tina Parker back this
God.
season, this is her only scene this season, and as always, she crushes it, and I'm crushed that she's not back more.
And she also fell right back into the Breaking Bad Francesca.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is in that box? Oh, we'll find out.
It was important in this scene, I thought, to make as many references to the Breaking Bad style as we could. So, of course, this was shot handheld, and we had a lot of cameras hiding in unusual places. In the wall, we had it in the drawer. Those tableau shots that you scripted, I thought were a beautiful idea.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was just fun to finally, as a fan, to be on the set and to see it all and to see the set.
Yeah. The set standing was something else. People would come and, these are people who have lived, many of them have lived in the family and the world of the show for a long time, and there was a real sense that it was like a spaceship had landed in the studio.
I have to say, I thought that one of the challenges of the scene was that we would have to recreate the set and take measurements and look at stills. But all credit to our line producer on Breaking Bad and the first season of Better Call Saul, Stu Lyons. He folded the Saul Goodman set, and it's been in storage all these years.
Brilliant.
So this is the original set that we started on in season 2 in Breaking Bad, and it's although we did find that there were little details that needed to be redone for high def. So there's a few tiny changes. Maybe we'll see more of them at some point.
There's something interesting in this episode, I think, going forward, which sort of starts here with the color and the way color is used, I think, in the episode. We were very conscious of yellow being a very important color through this entire experience. And of course, here he's in purple, and it's like a direct opposite. It kind of plays nicely. There's the yellow here, and as you go through, you'll see a bunch of yellow through a lot of the scenes.
I love that. That's great. And of course this is a beautiful piece of cinema language that you were handheld all the way up through here, and now you're doing this very controlled push in for the end of the scene.
Right,
it's just very elegantly done, Michael. And this is Michael's first episode for us.
And he killed it.
He did. He killed it dead.
But how lucky that we have the bench right after that.
Right, that's
It was a
true, and that was
perfect
luck.
cut. Actually, I remember the brilliant Melissa Bernstein right at the beginning saying, "Good news, you have the bench." Because I was still in rotation.
Here we are at CC Mobile, which was, of course, introduced in the previous episode. And we learned something interesting in post of this scene, which was we had to cut the music each time with a jump cut. We actually learned that in the previous episode, and it really brought those jump cuts to life. But of course, it ended up being very expensive because that's a new piece of licensed music every time we
For
cut.
every cut.
When I saw this and I heard what you'd done with the music, I was in awe of that. Absolutely, and it works so well. And all the jump cuts, I think, Skip, work
Yeah.
really well in this scene.
Yeah, it was fun to try to make that work and get it to work as well as it did, and get him moving in different positions within the store. And it was really it was fun but challenging to make that happen. But the music really kind of set the tone at that point.
I was struck by the design of this store, which is
Me too.
It feels so
The
accurate,
colors.
and yet I was going to say the
Yeah.
colors. It's both sort of flat and dull, but also completely,
And then with the
vibrant.
added color of the sign
Yeah.
that he painted, it's a great set.
It's a great. Skip, of course, has been. We've been working together for so long. I think I learned pretty much everything I know about editing from working with Skip and with Kelly.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just learn that all you really have to do, this is the way I operate, is I sit on the couch and I just complain endlessly. And then Skip says, well, what about this? And I say, oh, my problem's solved. It's great.
Peter
I'm
has
brilliant.
a wish list. But it's fun. It's a challenge when, Peter asks for something, and it's fun to make it work. And it does.
And it's one thing that you learn so much in the editing room about how a director works. And Michael's footage, the footage that Michael shot, there's always so many possibilities. You've cut a version that's great, a director's cut, and I can't help kicking the tires on that. But just find that you've always thought about different ways to do things and different ways in and out of the scene and different things to emphasize. And it gives you a lot of options, which is so much fun.
Well, thank you. I'll return a compliment with a compliment, which is that the prep process, which can vary vastly in different shows and different atmospheres, was always so focused on subtext and intention and character. And it was something that Anne, you and Peter always emphasized right from the beginning, so it made my job a lot easier.
Well,
That's great.
that just shows you're very tolerant because
Because there's a lot of talking.
It's exhaustive, but it's really because we want to give you all the information about how we came to these conclusions or what we're hoping for to get out of each scene, and it's fun. And now we find out his whole rap about why these phones
I
are
love
a good
that
idea.
moment and the look on his face when he's like, "Wait a minute, what are you
salesmanship.
doing?"
Perfect
I
salesmanship.
know.
Really.
But this episode, we were so mindful of where it is in the season, and more than that, where it is in the mythology of this character, and how, at least for me, this episode was largely about something about the birth of Saul.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Saul for the first time, obviously, but how Saul, at least in my mind, is almost an equation of like Slip and Jimmy plus a little bit of Jimmy McGill adds up to a bit of Saul Goodman.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
This is Carlos Leal, who's our European.
He was so European that in his audition, I remember, he did a brilliant tape and was Spanish, and then showed up French,
Yeah.
which was a pretty good trick.
And it turned out like he was Swiss,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, okay.
He can do all of it.
Yeah, I mean, very versatile, very nice guy.
This shot right here, it was just while it's on, was a beautiful bit of operating from the whole team. This was a single crane shot that once upon a time, in the movie version, started high above, so it was another 25 seconds longer. It ended up, I think, cutting just right at this length. But the whole thing was one take, and it was actually a lot more complicated than it appears, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because that had the bus arriving.
Had the bus arriving,
all
but it
that
goes all the
timing.
way through, the phone calls and.
It's beautiful, and you did shoot other coverage, but this is a beautiful way to tell a story.
And also that parking lot is dressed.
Yeah, that's
So
a good
all the
point.
green was put there.
Yeah, the greens were painted on and stitched on.
That's right.
Like leaf by leaf, basically.
To
Some
make it
kind of
look
magic trick.
like Denver and not Albuquerque.
And we, in post, we emphasized the bluish sunshine to give it a little bit of a different look from a little snowier, wintry look from our Albuquerque world.
This was very important early in prep, actually, Peter, and this is a you thing too. We were trying to find places that could play as Denver, and we found a couple, but you pushed us. I remember saying, go back, there's going to be more to find. And this was right up at the top of the mountain near the ski resort, actually. And I'm so happy that we were able to go back and find this location, because it really reads differently to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I have to give credit to our producer, Robin Sweet, because she had to figure out, we did a little bit of horse trading and said, can you do this? Can you do that? And she found a way that we could shoot, I think it was a splinter day.
It was.
So you actually were shooting this with a very small crew while the rest of the crew was continuing on to the next episode. And that's Robin, that's the creativity of finding a way to make it happen. And I think we cut out maybe a digital shot, or there may have been, there was something else that we decided to simplify to get this.
I'm glad we did it. And this credit goes to Paul Donachie, the brilliant A-camera operator who actually was the DP on this day. He also shot, and by the way, I hope you've watched the whole season before you start listening to these tracks, but Paul also was the DP on the teaser for episode 8, which is the bus ride to Louisiana. This is something that I've never seen on another show or another movie or any other way of telling a story, where you would give this much time, much screen time and story time to a character that we are, spoiler alert, going to find out is discarded. I love that right from the beginning.
We keep doing it.
It's brilliant.
I love this image of him with the hood. It's funny.
There were about 8 hoods that were made. We were very careful with the hood. We tried different materials, different shapes, different linings. We wanted to make sure that it was comic enough without being too comic and not horrifying. There's a lot of work from the props department.
It was.
And not Ku Klux Klan.
And not, we didn't want it to be pointy in any way.
Well, the big decision was turning it sideways. Changed everything.
Right.
So Skip, what's your process? You're getting dailies, and how do you proceed?
I get the dailies and see what scenes I get for the day, and then I will reread the scene in the script just to refamiliarize myself and see if there's any important moments for me. And then I'll watch all of the footage and then decide which pieces I feel are going to work the best and start molding it. A friend of mine once told me that film is like clay. You can mold it any way you want. So I've taken that into account, and I just kind of continually mold it from moment to moment. And like in this scene here, that was more of almost like a static shot. And I know there was
that was
what was
fun.
the piece of equipment called? The rattler and shaker?
We mounted the van on an enormous piece of equipment that you wouldn't believe how much it was. It was like a simulator, one of those simulators from the outside. It was on camera, because the camera was fixed. You're aware of it a little bit.
It would rock. And
by the way, whoever did the sound design, who is a genius of your show, I loved the idea of putting that the train whistle and the train bell. That was.
There was one cut where we heard a cow moo, which I thought was very funny, and that ended up not making the final cut.
And here we are in the laundry. Just another great moment.
I love what you say, Skip, that you can mold it any way you. It's very hard to talk about your contribution as an editor, because the audience never sees the dailies.
No.
And also the other thing is that once it's done, there's a feeling of inevitability about it. it feels like it was always destined to be this way, at least to me anyway.
Yeah, no,
and so, but that's not true. It was all up. It was all the way through the process. It was always up for grabs.
That's so
yeah.
true.
And trying to explain to people what it is that we actually do in the editing room, they kind of give you a blank stare, like, what does that mean?
I'm always obsessed with the fact that you have to have your eye on the smallest possible unit of this, which is the frame. Down to the frame, but also you have to have your eye on the biggest possible unit, which is the overall arc. And obviously we work on that together.
Yes.
But you have it. It's amazing to watch you work.
Yeah, but it's also, the good thing for me is, like, you as a director, the footage that you give me is so easy to work with. It all ties together. It's not like, what do I do with these pieces? It's you think it out ahead of time, so you know how you want it together. And a lot of times I feel I see that same path when I get the footage. And it works so beautifully together. And I love the composition of your shots, are just really beautiful.
Michael, what kind of planning do you do? Are you a shot lister, a storyboarder? What do you do to think about the scene before you shoot, before you come on the set?
I always shot list, always. I mean, that's just part of my process. And actually my way of, every director I think has a different way of approaching it, and there's none of them I think are right. What I've evolved is I'll always come with a shot list, but on the day above that shot list, it all starts with tone and character notes. So to me, I make a little, almost like a bullet point list of what I think is the most important. This was the same image as before, but with the little sundial. Like I love.
And this was shot first because the sun was coming up.
Correct. Yeah.
And the ticket.
That's a great touch.
Yeah. So I always have the shot list, and those shot lists are born from storyboards. I'm a terrible storyboard artist. It's like a doctor's handwriting. It makes sense to me and no one else, but I translate it into words so that I can share it with people. And to me, that's important. But the most important thing, if there's one thing I could say to anyone who wants to do this, you can come with a shot list, come with every idea you want, but be open. And to me, having a shot list allows me to be more open because I'm not trying to think about things on the fly. Mm-hmm. So if someone comes to me and says, wait, this would work if you move the camera right instead of left, it helps me.
That makes so much sense. And you can tell that there's a vision behind the way this is all put together.
These two signboards, I remember, we were obsessed with desperately trying to find out if we were possible to photograph this or if they were copyrighted, and nobody knew. And we called the courthouse people and went all the way up to some sort of film commission in the state, as far as I remember, until we found out that they were actually ours. They were designed by us in a previous season, possibly
I love it.
for season 1. And then, that's how well designed they are.
And for some reason, you always get these great Peter to Seth scenes.
I know, I'm so lucky because he is.
And you do such a good job with him.
I love him. He is such an amazing actor, and every take he gives you something different. Mm-hmm. And he's just a natural, and he's so funny without being big. It's just what's on his face.
These two are just magical together.
Well, she's really wonderful to work with, Ray, because she is so invested in the character. She's so smart about the character and the story, and is open to interpretations, but is always right on with her own approach. Mm-hmm. I find her really brilliant as this character. And this storyline, right from the script onwards, was sort of about her finding this passion, mm-hmm. or at least that's the kind way to say it, or finding her drug, if you want to use the junkie paradigm, like finding a thing that she cannot not do. It kind of makes her feel human. And it's sort of her superpower, it's becoming, to me. She's so brilliant in this negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's so good at her job, and I love seeing her be good at her job.
I've never seen a courtroom scene covered quite this way.
No, it was
remember when we
quite a bold moment, yes.
I've never been happier, though. This one has stayed with me because, like as Peter said, we do have other shots. And then it was in reviewing the scene and trying to get what it was about the writing that was so quirky and so, not quirky is not the right word, just something so individual about the way
Cherkis.
So Cherkis, yeah. And this seemed like the Cherkis shot. You never see Kim.
I love it, and I remember because you did shoot the other direction. I mean, you did come around, but you didn't end up using it. And I think this works so well.
It was one of my happiest days, Skip, in that whole director's cut experience. That when we found that we could do this.
We could do this, yeah. I think it works great.
I mean, it was so smart to shoot the whole thing from the back. It was just a great idea.
That's very, in my understanding of the world of Better Call Saul, just that moment when the judge walks through and you see her out of focus for a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas mostly you'd be on the judge.
It's interesting because it keeps it from somehow being on their backs keeps it from being overplayed. And I feel this about the later scene too, with her young client, the female client. There's something feels right about being on their backs.
Well, it's just interesting because we've seen so many scenes in so many movies and television in a courtroom. And so the question is, how do you do it differently?
This reflection shot's great too. Wow.
David, listen to me.
I remember we were really worried that she wasn't being hard enough on him. What was the right way? What is the right way for her to approach this? I think just Ray plays it beautifully.
Yeah, but it was also in the script, we added something later, I think. We added something, before we shot that I think helped.
I think it all depends
this
on his
part.
reaction.
Yeah, and also his reaction.
It all depends on his reaction because if it lands with him, then she said the right thing. If it doesn't, then she didn't.
And he did a great job here because it's subtle, but you understand that he gets what she's saying.
Yeah, Jonathan Yavis, and how it's all built up in ego for a young kid like this. And I thought she played it beautifully because she's absolutely clear and she's absolutely saying, you're on your own. There's no sentiment in it, and I think that's because for her, this isn't altruism. She's not just doing it to be the saintly attorney. She's doing it because it's feeding her. She got what she needed out of that, and she's off.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'm sorry, I can't.
This is a very tricky scene.
Yeah.
We're asking a lot of the audience and of everybody, and I think it's a little bit. We trimmed quite a few pieces out of this segment here.
Yes, there was a whole chunk of dialogue at the beginning that is now not.
And a whole bunch of shots.
Yes, yes.
This is where I was watching this and going, well, if Better Call Saul were a piece of punctuation, it was a punctuation mark, it would be an ellipsis.
That's great.
It's interesting because just we're trying to get at some restlessness inside him. Thomas Golubovic, our music supervisor, was able to get this piece of music.
It wasn't bothering me.
Yeah, I know. I just realized there's something.
Something I think that comes through, and by the way, the ellipsis is maybe my favorite piece of punctuation too. So, and it's the most useful.
I overuse it.
And I think that, like what happened here with Kim in the foreground, and they're not really paying attention to each other, even though they're doing lip service of like, oh, hey, they each have their own secrets. He's going to service his secret. She's been doing her secret all day. It kind of prefigures that beautiful split screen montage you did in a later episode. Oh, by the way, Marshall Adams, genius of the show, he uses the Vericam to shoot this, and I've used many different kinds of cameras, but this night scene was lit pretty much from one light 3 streets away through that window.
Wow.
Plus the little lights that were inside.
amazing.
But that's it. It's
so beautiful.
beautifully
It
balanced.
is.
And we said at the beginning, let's try and really use this, the writing on the wall and the shadows. And he did it it was incredible to watch.
It's a tricky scene because my theory was that no matter what we put on screen, people would think he was stealing money. And so we really had to, we tried to make it as clear as we can that he's paying for these phones.
Yeah, ripping off the receipt over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
over,
But-
that helped a lot.
And I think it works. But I have this sneaking suspicion that some people in the audience think, oh, he just stole money and phones.
Right.
Wait, what happened? And it's all about really watching what's on screen as opposed to what you think is going to be on screen. And here are the three dudes.
Said for phones,
We got phones.
private phones.
Tommy Nelson, Carlin James, and Corey Chapman, of course, show up in the next episode too.
And this is another fleeting Breaking Bad reference.
And our music
The music.
comes up, which is such an amazing choice.
Well, your music supervision is peerless on the show. And we had a great meeting earlier on. And we actually shot this to a different piece of music. Well, not shot it to, but we had in mind a different
yes.
piece of music. But it had a similar kind of, we knew it wanted this sort of disco-ish energy. Doesn't he say in another episode, Dead Like Disco?
This
He
this
might- yeah,
sequence is so impressive to me in so many ways. But for anyone who's ever worked in production, to know that you shot this in 2 split nights. So in other words, this was 2 half days. Everything that takes place at the doghouse was shot in 2 half days. So it's equivalent of 1 night, shooting everything you're seeing from him approaching the doghouse all the way through the end of the act, shooting that in 1 night. It boggles my mind. I don't know how you did it, Michael, because it's not only, it's just, it feels like you've got everything you could think of to see, and it's not just a montage. It's a montage, and then 2 scenes, 2 substantial scenes. I don't know how you did it.
Well, this is a real shout out to all of production, because I think everybody knew going in that it was going to be a very full night, put it that way, and so everything was totally prepared beautifully by Melissa and Nina and Robin. I mean, they really got everything that we could need. There was pre-scouts, there was advanced parties. The one thing I would say is we scouted the kitchen of the Doghouse. Doghouse is a brilliant restaurant. Everyone should go there and enjoy it when they're in Albuquerque. But it was wonderful. It had this patina of like use, right? And I was
Yes.
obsessed with the kitchen. And they were so excited for us to shoot there that we got there and they had cleaned the whole thing perfectly brand new. We had them make hot dogs for 4 hours straight just to dirty it up.
Dirty it up.
It's remarkable, and I remember visiting the set on this night, and Bob was walking on air. He was as excited as I've ever seen him on set about what was happening, and I happened to bring my daughter and her best friend and her best friend's father to set, and it was the perfect moment, because there you are with the techno crane and 3 cameras and all these the bouncing car and everything. It was wonderful, and this was a really really special favorite of mine. That whole sequence is, and I love the way Skip cut this so beautifully.
But also, Michael, your choice of all of the background actors. I mean, it was just perfect. I mean, the variety of people and.
Well, it was fun. It was really everything was very curated on this.
Yes.
I will say that.
Yeah, and for me, the variety of shots that you got. I mean, there was endless ways to put this together, and it was a lot of fun because there were so many choices, so many different looks of all the people and everything, and it was just.
That shot of the when you looked inside the trunk there, that was on stage. That was actually on stage, shot right next to Saul Goodman's office.
I think it's the only thing you picked up
That's
on.
the only thing, yeah. Well, we left that one.
I can't believe it.
Hi, how are you? It's a beautiful ride.
And Bob just loved this. I specifically with working with these actors.
Yeah.
In the motorcycle gang.
It's just it's just fun, and.
This actor, Drew Moore, who was fantastic playing the big boss man right
Biker
here.
Boss, yeah.
He was so great, and he's enormous. He's an absolutely, truly larger-than-life person.
Yes.
What I remember most, he's eating fries. They're famous for the chili fries there. And I said, well, we can get you some chili fries instead of regular fries. And he looks at me and goes, oh, chili's going to hurt my stomach. I can't. That's a little spicy for me. And I'm like, seriously? Look at you. He's a lovely, really lovely guy.
Very nice.
Mexico correction system is that private conversations are few and far between. The man.
And there were some really funny takes. The biker boss is second in command. The looks between him and Bob were just
Well, it's
were
funny,
so funny.
When you watch it back away from it a little bit, after everything's been finished and Peter, your cuts is complete and everything's locked, I was really interested in how this played, because this scene for me, it's funny and it's tense, I think, which is great. But it's also, there's something profoundly sad about it without you ever playing it. It's still as funny as it was scripted, but you have a sense that this is a man slightly out of control, who knows he shouldn't go back and do what he just did. He was risking everything.
I have to give kudos to Dave Porter too, because he has there's a little piece of score that plays with him walking back that I think really makes a bridge between the exuberance of street life and then this decision he makes, and now this.
Sorry, guys, you had your chance. I'm all sold out.
Give me your money.
I gotta say, I've been doing this a few years now. I still don't understand how you did what you did in that night. And I was there for some of it. I'm still confused.
Well, Michael was so prepared. I mean, you really had it worked out.
But now there's a stunt. Now there's stunts. Yeah. So and you can't explain it. It's not possible.
I like that shot underneath.
Yeah, me too.
Me
Me too. And they're kicking sandbags.
The big choice, because it was getting late, was this. But this, to me, was always really important for this moment. Rock bottom.
It's a great shot.
Why did he do that?
I know.
Jimmy.
And this is another example of a continuous, not a long, complicated, there's been many longer, more complicated shots, but there was something nice about how this starts on the empty bed and ends with her. I always love that you could see her in the mirror on the left as well as behind her.
This scene's a special favorite of mine because it's so quiet and intimate. And also, Jimmy's a character who really doesn't like reflecting on himself very much. He likes to move forward. He doesn't like to think about where I am, where I've been. And this is a scene where he does look at himself, and it's a moment of maturity. I don't know. It's full of feeling to me, and I love what you and Bob and Ray did here, and the way Ann wrote this. It's a very touching moment to me.
It feels very, not just, I don't mean this in the acting and or whatever, the staging, I mean just emotionally for the character, it always felt very authentic. This moment when he says, I'm going to call that shrink, I really believe that he means it in this moment. And
also just the way he pops that lid. He knows she can't pop the lid, she's only got one hand.
Well, this is like, who's made a Matthew Brady reference on television before?
Yeah, we never get away with that except for on this show.
Yeah.
But there's something beautiful about that, because they love each other and they do want to help each other, but they're both damaged.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's true, and it's.
I love seeing Jimmy's vulnerability, and Bob did it beautifully.
1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and especially coming off of that explosive couple of scenes you had in the last act, and to go to do an intimate scene like this, and people will stereotype directors and editors and all of us and say, well, this person's an act, this is a shooter, this is a character person. This is doing it all. And we've gone from explosive action to something that, I don't know, is kind of deep and intimate as it gets, at least for us.
That's really interesting. There was a choice made here because they were really with each other, acting this. There was they're so wonderful the way they work together. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I've almost never seen this on any other show. They will come to the studio and watch each other work They'll come and hang out, and not to do anything, not for fittings, not for table reads, just to be there, to be part of the company, which is so fabulous. And you can see it here. So the choice was, let's make this one shot. Let's have this be a two-shot. In most, not just shows, but oftentimes in movies or whatever, you would want to come around, you'd want to emphasize something or highlight a line or get a look. To me, and I think Skip, you saw this right away in the room too, it's just, this is the scene, even though he's facing away from us, which in some worlds can be like, oh, we have to, cut around.
Yeah, but you still get a lot of his emotion coming through in the shot too, and it just really works well.
Then here's an example of using, and I think about 15 seconds, eight different pieces of licensed music. Thank you, Sony. No, and I'm not joking, because Sony, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask. Why do you need 8 pieces of music for this 10-second scene? And they let us do it. Thank you.
And also to Thomas for having them different enough where you notice that they're completely different pieces.
That's absolutely true. That was a tricky thing to handle.
Denise, it's Kim Wexler.
I always like this shot too. Matt Creedle on the B camera was doing this one. It's really nicely framed.
Yeah, our camera operators really have a wonderful eye, and they know that we're interested in unusual compositions, which really helps a lot. They know the show so beautifully.
And I think the production design of putting that little branch thing on which wasn't there before, was a great idea. It just gives it this texture, and it's nice.
Is the yellow again? This little sequence starts with the word yellow.
Right.
Yellow's weird though to me, because it's always something which is, it's on all the happy faces, but it's also really it's enervating in some way to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's that story, the yellow wallpaper, sort of drives people crazy somehow.
Too bright, too much. Yeah.
This is, again, we're behind Kim, and she's looking off screen left, and it just works. And of course, this young actress is terrific. She does a great job, and we are not, she may be, I hope when she sees the episode, she's not irritated that we're on her back for some of her big scene, but she is really good. Tabitha
Shawn.
Tabitha Shawn, yeah.
Yeah, and she auditioned for us, and she was wonderful.
There's a simplicity to the way this scene is shot and acted that just feels earned and makes it feel right to me. It's really nice.
Hi, Paige.
Meanwhile, Kim's put her paying client, sent her paying client to voicemail.
No, she's going through a journey not unlike Jimmy.
That's true.
In this one.
True, she's trying to have it both ways, and right now it doesn't seem like there's an easy way to do that. Oh, and now she's just hung up on.
I love how instinctive that was too. There was no thought in it. It was just, in this moment, there's only one choice.
Yeah. And then she looks at the phone like, shit.
Yeah.
What I just did.
Yeah.
Good quick change that worked there.
All right, let's go get him.
Yeah, I like the kids' toys that are in the yard and everything. It's really nice touches.
Kara Pifko, I'm always happy to see her. She is such an intelligent, she brings so much intelligence, and she is just terrific in every scene. She and Ray always play well together. And these two have at this point in the series, they have quite a relationship. Usually Kara's character, Paige, is very supportive, but Kim may have pushed her just a little bit too far this time. And and Kara, of course, Paige and Kevin are both Ann Cherkis inventions.
Oh, right, of course.
Well, that's true. They did show up, and
She was
for the first time in one of my episodes.
She was wonderful in this, just
Yes.
for me, because she's angry. She was really put out. Kim let her down in a way, but she's not comfortable being angry with Kim. It's not her natural mode. So it was kind of, she played it like, you drove me to this, you know.
Right.
It was a nice side of her, and here we're back in this crazy
The
rig,
van, which was so much fun to watch.
which we actually
being
mounted
shot.
right outside the laundry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's where
and
this was.
It was so much fun just to watch this.
Now,
shot.
He's funny.
the introduction of Rainer Bach, who is wonderful, and we're introducing him first without seeing his face, and now here's the man.
He's wonderful. I was very happy to get to work with him. He's a really truly talented actor. Lovely man.
This was his first day on the set, and I actually was in Albuquerque for this because I wanted to be there for this, and to see this character, and he's so physical.
Yeah.
What Jonathan can do with a look. There's no one who can. You could please do a sort of supercut of Jonathan Banks' withering looks.
And the burp.
I
remember we were in the
not
editing
intentional. I don't
we were in
think.
the editing room, and you said, "Please don't cut the burp."
I know. I love the burp.
Just
I love how messy he is.
Yeah,
yes.
it worked so well with him too. He just, splashing the water on
I
his
know,
face and
it was
stuff
great.
is very natural for him.
Here's a shout out to Mark Hansen and the brilliant props department too, because even though you see these things only sort of glancingly, an enormous amount of work went into the stuff that the European had, and versus the stuff that we have here, and there was a lot. They had hundreds of items that I remember going through and choosing.
You were really
with them.
into it.
Well, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that he owns right here is something that I would kill to own. The leather notebook, the mechanical pencils. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the coat, which I remember that was kind of a last minute addition. I actually carried it with me from L.A. to Albuquerque.
Oh, really?
When I flew over with my daughter and her friend, so I hand carried it to Jennifer Bryan, our brilliant costume designer.
So really, the idea here being the contrast between the sort of slightly slick, superficial methods used by the European, which look great. He's great at making a proposal, and the real artisanal quality of this.
That's right.
Of this man.
And I just love his little mumblings to himself in German.
Disgusted by everything.
Yeah.
Was that him actually drawing this?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
Thinking these people are crazy.
This is an example also to me of a really smart, expert directing too on that day, because I was there and you shot the other scene first, and you got exactly the number of pieces that we needed to get to make that scene work. Because you even had you have two little montages here, which there's a lot of setups, and you got just exactly, and I could see you choreograph your day, you and the AD staff, so that you had the time to really lavish on this scene, which is quite intricate. I think very few feature films would have as many setups as carefully laid out as you did here on this partial day on a TV series.
I appreciate that, but partly I think that's because the way you set up the language of this show is you allow for shots like this, as opposed to having to have two sizes of close-up always. Because when things mandate that, yeah, you can get your wide shot if you want, but you have to get me this and you have to go tighter, that takes care of a lot of the time that you have. And you have, this show is nothing but confidence to me, and this show has the confidence to say we can play scenes in beautiful shots and we can play scenes on Ray's back.
Yeah.
You know, so which gives you the time to then say, oh great, then we can get everything that we need.
I love the way he holds it's like a baby.
I
He's
know.
holding the bottle like a baby. And this is, he is just a remarkable performer.
Yeah, he brought like a great quirkiness to this character.
Well, and Jonathan never moves.
He's
as well.
so still.
He's just the still point of almost every scene he's in. There's so much power with him.
Going this deep.
And I remember this dialogue, this particular chunk of dialogue was challenging because it was technical. And I'm the furthest thing from a structural engineer. So there was a lot of research and rewriting and rewriting and rewriting.
It was tricky.
Yeah.
And also, Reiner is an actual German, not a fake Hollywood German. So his accent, it wasn't exactly what I expected, because I think in the back of my mind I had a fake Hollywood German accent. And he has a real German accent. So the words that he slows down on or he has more trouble with are not the words that you would necessarily expect. And it's something we had to learn. We had to learn as we went. And he is great with this dialogue. He speaks excellent English, but he is acting in a language that's not his own.
This was Herculean to me. Day one, new country, new city, new character, new clothes, new props, tons of props.
Tons of dialogue.
And 3.5 pages of dialogue establishing the character. I thought he did.
He did incredibly
I've never
well.
seen anything like it.
It's remarkable.
He brought his son with him to the set this day, who sort of acted as translator / support system for him, and that was great.
The only problem with the entire script to me is that this was the only scene
I know.
with Giancarlo.
I know.
I can't believe it.
Giancarlo Esposito. Great.
Come on.
Yeah, we need more of it. We need more. We need more show. That's all there is to it. Although this episode is 5 minutes longer than it's supposed to be, so we got plenty of show.
See you, Marty.
See you, Jimmy.
But it all worked so well. It was because it's 5 minutes, because we couldn't figure out what we could take out.
Well, and again, thank you to AMC, because they could have put the hammer down and say you need to be on time.
Yeah.
And it causes them all kinds of grief to have an episode that's too long, and they let us do it.
I've been better.
Now we have
And we're
this
grateful for it.
wonderful scene with Patrick.
Oh, Fabian.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think you've charted through the season his, the decline, so well, because there are these little touch point scenes, and you get to this suddenly, and it's striking. Like, you're basically seeing this from Jimmy's point of view, and it's like, what? How did this happen?
Right.
These guys they play so well together. And when we started the show, I would have never expected in a million years that this is where Patrick's character would go, or this is how he would be.
But you've written this thing which is almost like siblings with them, and following that. It's like two ways to deal with grief, right? You either you feel it, and you feel guilt, and you feel terrible, and you crumble, and you're stooping over the sink, or you just choose not to feel it and not to deal with it.
They're two victims of their relationship with Charles McGill.
Dealing with it in complete opposite ways.
Yeah. And this, of course, is our wonderful set from the pilot. The pilot, we had one scene in the courthouse men's room, and for which Tony Fanning built this magnificent set. And from then on, whenever there's a chance to have a scene in the courthouse men's room, we're eager for it, because we want it really is a beautiful set.
I actually have the number.
And in the 3 episodes I've written, I've had 2 scenes
Good job.
in this set.
And they were all great scenes too.
That bathroom is magical.
Yeah, you'd never spend so much time in a men's room.
No.
Really?
Twice a week.
See any good? I love how he says that line.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I love what you're doing with reflections here too. It's just so nice.
You too.
So the big question, but for that meeting, would he have called?
I think he might have found another reason not
Right,
to.
right,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
That's a good question.
What do you think, Skip? Would he have called the shrink?
Knowing Jimmy, probably not. You're right. He would have found another way around it.
Agreed.
Probably not, because he's going to go right from here to this scene, and I feel in this moment, and this is your grip department did a fabulous job even fitting this crane into the room that we were shooting at here downstairs in the courthouse. But I think this moment to me, which was one of those that I wanted to do, like I think early on, was just figuring out his next move, and his next move does not involve a shrink, and I think possibly would never have involved a shrink.
Where were we? Community service.
Community service. Right.
These Marlon Young is really excellent in this scene. He's not going to take any crap from Jimmy.
Yeah.
He strikes the right tone because he's also, friendly-ish.
Marlon's interesting because he's not that. He was when we pitched this scene. I don't think he was who we had in mind. But his audition was so great, and he brings so much reality to it. You know, he just won it.
He sure did.
No.
All right. Month 2 looks good. Have you thought about what you're going to do once your PPD is up?
I have some plans.
And then it's Ann and I remember being in the writers' room, and we were always wondering what was the right teaser for this episode, and the feeling, boy, if at the end of the episode he's got these big plans, maybe the beginning of the episode is everything crashing in on Saul.
But that's such a great, I mean, it reminds me of like a piece of music or something where you have these themes, and the themes get a little bit broken up during the music in a beautiful way. It's like a score. Because it's so wonderful, the circularity to me, and I'm just speaking as a fan here, the circularity of the story where you start like, boom, right in the middle with Saul, and you end with this vision of Saul, like you said. I find it very moving. Because it's somehow true for everybody, right? We have these big ideas.
Well, it's sad.
plans.
It's sad that he didn't get the future that he envisioned.
Well, it's his own fault.
Yes, it is.
Or his own damn fault, I should
guess,
say.
yeah.
Skip, that was such a well-cut episode.
Thank you.
It
was a lot of fun to work with everybody here too. I mean, from Michael to Ann to you, Peter, and it's such a pleasure, and everybody brings great ideas to it.
And you had 1, 2, 3, 4.5 montages. So well done.
Well,
yeah.
Well, as Stu Lyons used to say, montage is French for overtime.